Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, which is Certified Business Analysis Professional, and my name is Varun Pawar. And I hope you are finding my videos very useful for your certification, either that is CCBA, ECBA, or CBAP. So far, what we have done, we have completed our 4 knowledge. So, what is requirement lifecycle management? Uh, First of all, about the defect. When you raise any defect or any tester raises the defect, the life cycle of the defect is first the defect is open, the status is changes to the open. If any of you is using any defect management tool, either that is uh, quality control, either that is projects, or either that is Zira, so whichever you are using, so the first status is you open, the status changes to the open, then it's been assigned to any developer, then developer work on that and changes the status to the fix or a fixed, then that is assigned back to the tester. Tester would retest that, verify that. If the issue has been fixed, tester mark it as closed or fixed, or status changes to basically closed. And then if that is not fixed yet, tester used to reopen that. So that's a life cycle of a defect. In a similar way, the life cycle of the requirement is there. First, the requirement comes in, and then the elicitation and the collaboration happen with that. Parallelly, the specify and model the requirement happens. Then further one like verify, validate, and all sort of things happens with that. When it finally comes to the solution, to check the potential value and which one is giving more value. At the same time, once the solution is being implemented, then finally we are doing solution evaluation to validate whether the solution is actually giving that value which was expected before or not. So that was the life cycle of the requirement. The other thing is the requirement, either that is first comes into picture when it is incepted, and then it remains there until retired. So I hope you understand. So let's go through. So it is to manage requirement lifecycle management is a tool that helps you to manage and maintain the requirement from the time when the requirement is being comes into picture, when it is incepted, to the time till it is retired, right? So it is to manage and maintain requirement and design information from inception to retirement. This establish meaningful relationships between related requirements and designs. So when the requirement is being created in a tool or that management tool, you are not creating only one requirement. There are a lot of requirements that you are creating, and one requirement could have a relationship with other requirement, whether that requirement is dependent on other, or other is dependent on it, uh, or there is a derived relationship that initially that was a business requirement, and then further that is translated to the solution requirement or transition requirement. uh, whether the, so it's like a requirement lifecycle management tool helps you to maintain that relationship between the requirements and the designs. The purpose the purpose of the requirement lifecycle management is to ensure that business stakeholders and the solution requirements and designs are aligned to one another, and that the solution implements them. So when finally the requirements is being aligned to the one solution, then later on we are validating whether all the requirements is being catered, And finally, we check from where this requirement is being comes down, translated to finally the solution requirement, whether those the initial objectives is being met or not. It involves a level of control over requirements and over how requirements will be implemented in the actual solution to be constructed and delivered. It also helps to ensure that the business analysis information is available for future use. So requirement lifecycle management tool itself do this favor, like whatever information is being captured in this tool, it's always there for a later reference. The requirement lifecycle, it starts with a business need as a requirement. It continues through the development of a solution and ends when a solution is retired. The management of requirement does not end once a solution is implemented. So if we are saying like the requirement, the management of the requirement is ending once the solution is implemented, that's not true. It's because if once the solution is in operational phase, then also that requirement need to be referred back, not by you, it could be by anyone, like the similar project is being parallelly is now running, or other projects is about to kick off, then they might refer to this project and the requirements that is being done in this project for their references. So this tool, requirement lifecycle management, basically helps to maintain that requirement over the period of time. Throughout the life of a solution, requirements continue to provide value when they are managed appropriately. Requirements may be in multiple states at one time. It could be possible that the requirement, a business need comes into picture, you have created a requirement of that. At the same time, you are doing the elicitation and the collaboration with the stakeholders. At the simultaneously, you are creating a specify and model, or creating a detailing out the requirement and creating the designs and the models of that requirement. And at the parallelly, you are also doing some potential value analysis for the solution, or you might be doing some other strategy analysis around that. So this requirement could be in multiple states at one time. So in requirement lifecycle management, we have 5 activities, which is trace requirement, maintain requirement, prioritized requirement, assess requirement changes, approve requirements. So if any of you is working in a Jira or a requirement management tool, you would able to relate it easily. So first, today we'll talk about trace requirement, and the input for this is requirement and the design, and the output is requirement traced and design traced. So the objective of this activity is requirement and designs at different levels are aligned to one another, and to manage the effect of change to one level on related requirements. It captures backward traceability, its forward traceability, and its relationship to other requirement. So once you look in current state where the requirement exists today, if you want to see from where this requirement is originating, you should able to do a backward traceability, like it's a business requirement that's finally converted into the solution requirement, or uh, or it's right now a solution requirement. It's now it's a stakeholder requirement which is finally translating into the solution requirement. So you should able to validate that uh, with the help of the backward and the forward traceability. And it also help you to check the relationship between those requirement, whether one requirement is dependent on another requirement, whether one requirement satisfy other requirement, or one requirement is derived from other requirement. So these kind of relationship you should able to check. It helps to ensure that the solution conforms to requirements and to assist in scope change, risk, time, cost, and communication management. It is also used to detect missing functionality or to identify if there is implemented functionality that is not supported by any requirements. So sometimes it happens like when we are saying like missing functionality, so something which has been planned, which was a part of the scope, but when the solution is being implemented, that functionality is missed. So this helps you to identify. Traceability enables faster and simpler impact analysis. It also says like when we are saying faster and simpler impact analysis, suppose RFC request for the change comes into the system where the business analysis need to do the impact analysis. So this is a very quick method like the tracing. When the tracing of the requirement is available, you should able to do the quicker and the speedy impact analysis, because everything is handy with you. You can move ahead, you can check backward, you can check forward with the with within very less time. It helps you to identify the gaps in the requirement. It helps you to do deeper insight into the scope and complexity of a change, and assessment of which requirements have been addressed and which have not. Now, let's talk about the inputs. So, the first input is requirements and the second one is design. Basically, interchangeably, we can use those, and you can say requirements and design together. So it includes the goals, the objective, the business requirement, stakeholder requirement, solution requirement, and transition requirement, or the designs, which is traced to other requirements, uh, solution components, releases, and other work products that is being, related. The solution is the release that we are saying. So generally, when you create a release, you map the requirements with the release, a set of a bunch of requirements together to map with a release, like as a complete package that will act as a solution. So it's the same thing as saying like traced to other requirements, solution components, in order to provide the functionality for the release. A solution component can be part of that release, and could be there any requirement that is acting as a solution component. So requirement and design together act as an input for the trace of the requirements. Then we have the domain knowledge, which act as a guidelines and tools, but these are also an inputs. So domain knowledge, it expert in business domain to support traceability. Information management approach, it provides decision from planning activities concerning the traceability approach. Legal regulatory information, legislative rules or regulation that must be followed while defining traceability rules. Requirement management tools and repository used to store and manage business analysis information. And with the help of all those sort of inputs, and when you perform this activity, you get input, the requirements, and the relationship is now defined, right, with the help of the tool itself. So requirement and the design both traced means you would able to identify the relationship, you would able to maintain the relationship with the requirements and the design with other requirements and the designs. So level of formality. So let's talk about the elements. The first one is level of formality. When tracing requirements, BA consider the value that each link is supposed to deliver, as well as the nature and use of the specific relationship that are being created. Value that each link is. So what is link? Link is basically the relationship between the requirements. So BA consider the value. So what value the relationship, each relationship between the requirements is providing or delivering. Also, there are like once there are a lot of requirements, so you need to detail out the requirements. And when there are a lot many requirements together, it's very difficult to create or maintain a relationship, right? So that's why it's the effort to trace requirements grows significantly when the number of requirements or level of formality increases. Relationship. So there are four type of relationship: derive, depends, satisfy, and validate. So derive is something like the business requirement comes, and we have created a solution requirement for that. Example, business say that in order to access the application, there need to be a authentication or authorization, or only authorized person need to access the application. In order to uh, you know in order to create this functionality, so what we have done is we have created a login page where username and password is being entered. So this requirement is being derived from the business requirement. We have dependency, and here we have necessity and the effort. So the necessity is like when one requirements need another requirements to be done together, and the efforts when one requirement, if you do this requirement alone, it will take a lot of efforts. So in order to reduce the efforts, the another requirements need to be goes together with that. So that's efforts. In for the example, like for the necessity, you have created a login screen. You The requirement was create a login screen with username and the password field. But at the same time, another technical requirement is there. When you click on submit button, that would validate the username and the password with the database. So that's another technical requirement. So both these requirements should go hand in hand or together, then only the requirement is complete. So that's the necessity. The effort, like one requirement need to be done together with other requirement. That's how the less efforts will take. Otherwise, if you do one requirement alone, that will take a lot of efforts. So you can create your own example for that. Then satisfy. For the satisfy, suppose there is username and the password, and there is, due to the security reasons, somehow we have not given an option for the users to press the key keypads in your keyboard. It could be possible there someone is standing at the back is peeping into your keyboard, and so there we have allowed them to use a virtual keyboard, right? That would come on a screen, and their user can use just mouse and do things. So that is kind of like in order to reduce this phishing of uh, uh, you know security reason, we have provided them with a virtual keyboard. So that is satisfy relationship. The validate is basically it's for the in order to validate any requirement, how to validate for that, like test cases been created. So this is validate relationship. So that's that way the relationship is being created. The traceability repository, we need a traceability repository. That's another element. Requirement traceability is documented and maintained in accordance with the method identified by the business analysis approach. Requirements management tool have significant benefits when there is a need to trace a large number of requirements that may be unmanageable with manual approaches. So a lot of organizations are using the requirement management tool like Jira, where the requirements is being Jira and Confluence, where the requirement is being managed, the documents is being stored, and the relationship is also being maintained and easily managed. And it's very easy when you are using some tool. Had it be the manual process, like you're creating a lot of documents and then saving those documents in your laptop or in your storage, later on you would need a separate Excel that would say this is depend on that, this document name is this. So categorization and all those sort of things is very difficult to manage in your Excel. So for that, requirement lifecycle management tool benefits. There we have the stakeholders who will participate in this. So we have the customer, Customer, why customer? Because the customer is affected by how and when the changes happens. We have end users who participate in this because it may require some requirements go together as a dependency is there, because and that end users tells us. The domain subject matter expert, it recommends the set of requirements that together go in a release or component. Then we have implementation subject matter expert. This person, during the implementation, all dependencies met. In implementation subject matter expert secure that. Then we have operational support. So traceability provides reference for the support. So when we say that the traceability requirement lifecycle management, the requirements are there forever. So whenever the operation support is working, they always refer to the requirements and see what was the original requirement and what the issue. So how that will help them to resolve that issue. We have the project manager. Traceability supports project change and scope management. We have a sponsor. It required to approve various relationships. We have tester, how and where requirements implemented to create test plan. And supplier required because suppliers are affected by the changes. So there are most of the stakeholders play a crucial role in this activity. Then what are the techniques? So we have business rule analysis used to trace business rules to requirements that they support or rules that support requirements. Functional decomposition, that's very famous technique, used to break down solution scope into smaller components for allocation, as well as to trace high level concept to low level concept. We have process modeling used to visually show the future state process as well as tracing requirements to the future state process. And scope modeling used to visually depict scope as well as trace requirements to the area of scope the requirement supports. That's it from this activity, and I hope you are going together with me. Please share my videos, like my videos, so that I keep creating such useful videos for you in near future. Thank you. We'll connect you in next video.